And a good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on this special Mcfiles Tuesday night. We are always grateful to have new guests with us tonight, and I am actually very honored to have this young whippersnapper. He's not young, he's as old as I am. But me and him graduated together back in 1980. I won't give him the year to give his age away. But this is my classmate, and my dear friend JimmyHolton's on the line with us tonight, and I'm so grateful to have him. It's a very special first show he's ever done with me. We've been trying to get him on for a while, and every time I go to have him on, the world goes crazy, and I just said, we're going to get him on tonight no matter what. But Jimmy, it's good to have you on the phone, buddy, and you mean a lot to me. We've went to school together, and I know you are a good man, and you're also somebody I wanted to turn to talk about the subject tonight. We're going to deal with the sporting situation in America and these kids in college. But it's good to have you, friend, and it's good that you could come on tonight. It's really an honor to have you. It really is.
Christopher, the honor's mine, and I've actually been really looking forward to this ever since you asked me, and I'm so honored to be here. And I'm having to bite my tongue a lot these days because I've got a lot of people that are close to me. They're asking me about the NIL, asking me about the transfer portal, this and that. And when you said that's kind of what you wanted to run over tonight, I was so excited about being on.
That's good. Well, we're going to talk about that. I have to give Holton some credit. He told me this show is 7.5 years old, and I remember him telling me almost 10 years ago one time. He said, McDonald, he said, you need to put that camera down and you need to run your mouth. You need to get a podcast going. And it took me a couple years to come around, but I have to give Jimmy a lot of credit. He was the one that sort of encouraged me to do what we're doing tonight. And we're 7.5 years, almost 8 years later. It's going strong, buddy. And I appreciate that encouragement. So had to give you a shout out. Hey, I do want to talk to you about this situation. I know a lot of people out here. We have a very conservative audience, and we do have some sports fans that listen to us. And I know that most of them will understand what the portal is, but some won't. I want you to, if you don't mind, explain. And what we're talking about tonight is this college football situation, folks, where these kids have actually it's turned the NCAA into a free agent frenzy, actually a circus, and these kids are signing contracts. I'm thinking of the Georgia quarterback that went down to Miami, and he's got a $4 million deal, man. Jimmy, what would me and you have done with $4 million at age 20? I'm afraid to answer that question tonight. But this is what it's turned into. And tell everybody how this has devolved, because it used to be if you gave a kid a suit, if you bought a kid a dinner, you'd be put on probation for 50 years. And now they're signing contracts for $4 or $5 million, aren't they?
You know, Christopher, back when I played ball at University of Georgia back in the 80s, what a different animal it was. The only way for us, if your parents weren't sending you money each week just to have in your pocket to go out after games, etc., you had two ways if you were a college athlete back then to get money. One was you would sell some of your game tickets. We got 4 for every game. Most of us obviously gave 2 to our parents, but we were able to. Now I'm sure it wasn't quite legal back then either, but we always sold 2 of our tickets to boosters, people looking for a way to get into the game. That was one great way. The other way was to be the NCAA back then allowed for coaches to pay a current player $40 maximum to take a recruit out to dinner, et cetera, et cetera. And we'd always, to be brutally honest, we'd find a fraternity party going on with free kegs, and we'd just drop the recruit off and pocket the $40 and pick him up before curfew. And now what it's turned into, oh my gosh. I think things really turned on a head when this kid from Tennessee, the quarterback, started demanding money from that coaching staff.
Yes.
And, good for that head coach to stand his ground and say, this team is a lot bigger than one individual, and nobody is bigger than what we're trying to teach here, which is big team, little me. And good luck to you. I think that really showed people that there are head coaches that will stand up. And I think that's when the presidential council started getting talked around, which Nick Saban just signed on to be a part of, to really kind of oversee some of these things. It's just gotten so out of hand.
Well, Jimmy, I'm glad you mentioned the Georgia thing, and I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Jimmy played college football for the Bulldogs year after high school and for a while, and very good athlete. And I remember the Bearcats won the national championship in '82. I was gone to Cairo by then. Dad was a pastor, of course, but I'll always be a Bearcat, and I was proud of the Bearcats that year. And so you're coming from a knowledgeable perspective here, but speaking of Nick Saban, when he quit last year, and there's rumblings he's going to basically get back in the game now, but he basically came out and said that him and his wife didn't sign up for this. They had given so much money. My wife lives in Alabama. She is a big Alabama fan and big Saban. She's told me stories through the time we've known her that that he would host these kids, bring these kids to his house, fathered these kids. And then, when this portal got, they would just quit, and it became the highest bidder. It's no better than free agency in football and baseball and the pros, man. And some of this money that these kids are making, Jimmy, I'm like you. I wouldn't want I got a 23-year-old son. I wouldn't want to put $100,000 in his hand, let alone these $1 million contracts. And Carson Beck went to Miami. He quits Georgia. He has a subpar year. He says, I'll just go get my wear somewhere else. He gets, and he goes to Miami. They sign him, and And look, it's not just the players. I'm not blaming these kids for it, but the system has gotten corrupt. And the NCAA opened this Pandora's box, buddy, and I don't know if they're going to close it. I'm afraid this is going to be the downfall of college football, because I always looked at this, and I'll give it back to you after I say this. I always looked at college football as the last bastion of pure sports before the money started taking over, and it went into college basketball too. You felt like you could watch the game and it not be tainted with money. And I look at the high school level now, even the high school, these kids are moving out of districts to go to other high schools with these promises of whatever. And, most of us sports fans, Jimmy, we just want to see them play football, man. We just want to see people hit the baseball, carry the football across the goal line. And we want sports. We don't want a marketplace. And I think that's what it's turned into. All right, go.
Well, Chris, for one, I'll bring this up. It's a lot of people don't talk about it, but for me, one of the side effects, one of the horrible side effects of this entire transition on what our college football game has turned into is the elimination of the bowl games. And it used to be back when I was in high school and when I was getting recruited, if Georgia went to the Sugar Bowl, that was the creme de la creme of the year. I mean, that was just awesome. And it's just like the University of Texas or anybody from that conference going to the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl. Oh, my gosh. The bowl games used to be the culmination of an incredibly successful year. Now it's such an afterthought, and they've diluted the bowl system so much. I could ask you, you could call some diehard fans from Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, ask them the last 3 bowl games their team played in. They wouldn't be able to tell you. But if you ask the same person, 45 years ago, they'd be able to say, Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl. It's just the Orange Bowl. I've been to 4 or 5 Orange Bowls. I was lucky enough to play in the 1984 Cotton Bowl and the 1984 Citrus Bowl. We tied Florida State that year, and when we beat Texas 10-9 in the Cotton Bowl.
Remember that?
And but it was back when it really meant something. And I hate that the bowl scenarios just don't mean what they used to.
Jimmy, do you think that this money in college football, because look, you talk to a lot of college people, and let's just face facts. I'll just use Duke as a great example. For years, Duke was a basketball school, okay? Football was an afterthought. And I've been told that in many college cases, the football program finances the other sports, and I'm seeing that maybe the basketball teams are beginning to catch. They're doing the same thing now with the basketball programs. They're going to probably wind up doing it with the baseball programs. But where does this leave college football? Because it used to be football was the thing. I mean, if your football program didn't make money, your other sports were not going to make any money. And now it's now even the playing field, and these kids, where are these colleges getting the money? I guess that's the question I'm trying to get out of my mouth. Where are these colleges getting this money to give these kids? Are they making this much money off these kids?
Obviously every program is different, but if you made me commissioner of the entire conference, and it doesn't matter which conference, I would say you got to have I call it a salary cap. Basically, that's what it is. You can call it NIL all you want. These kids some of these contracts are guaranteed, so it's a salary. If you give each program in the exact same conference a salary cap, here's the maximum your kids can make. If you got so many kids on scholarship, so does the next guy in your conference. That's what they're allowed. You're allowed X amount of dollars to be filtered out through your entire team. It's up to you, the head coach and the coaching staff, to determine which position gets what, and you make it right with your players, because that can create a lot of animosity in a locker room. If I'm an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, and I come in and I look over across the way, guy putting his pads on across from me, he's making $4 million, he's getting $250,000 just to show up on a podcast, and I'm over here, having to still eat 3 meals a day at the training table. That causes a lot of discrepancy with teamwork and chemistry, and there's so many. But you have to put a cap on it. And back to your example about Duke, if they just let it continue to be the old Wild West and a shoot 'em out and a free for all, the Dukes of the world, the San Jose States, those up-and-coming programs football programs are never going to be able to compete
exactly
with the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Georgias. So if they don't cap it and allow the coaching staffs to take back control, you can't let the NCAA do it now. It's a joke organization. It's turned into one. You've got to give the power back to the head coaches. I can't imagine what would happen when I was getting recruited if Coach Dooley came and sat in my parents' house like he did so many years ago, and I were to sit there with my parents and demand $150,000 just to sign my scholarship. Oh my gosh, the audacity of that it kills me, and that's what kids are doing. But the first thing out of their mouth first they hire an agent out of high school. My gosh. And they want to know how much money I'm going to be paid each year to sign on the dotted line, and I can't believe it's actually came to that.
Jimmy, I'm with you there, and you brought something up I was going to ask you because it is a different world than when you were in high school with me, and I mean I can't imagine that, and I can't even imagine it now. But what's it doing to these athletes? Because it's almost like that the college has become just a assembly line to the pros, but it's now the high schools are almost getting to be assembly line because these kids, why would they even want to go? I mean, I hear the excuse. The excuse I hear while this is good is that a lot of these kids in college may not make it to the pros, and I think it's a cop-out because we're not talking 25, 26, 27-year-old men. We're talking 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that some of them can't even tie their shoe, and you're putting that kind of pressure on them and that kind of money in their hands. And I just think it's a recipe for disaster because I'm speaking as a father and I'm speaking as a sports fan too. I just would not want my child to have that responsibility to handle that kind of money. And I mean, and I'm with you. I mean, the idea of that happening 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when we were in high school, it's unheard of. And I don't see any, and I think, again, that's why Saban left, and I think there's a lot of other coaches, and I think you made an excellent point. It's going to make it to where there's this 5 or 6 team superpower teams that are going to have the money to do it. And then these other Class B teams like Duke, and you mentioned San Jose State and other ones, and that's not what the NCAA was built on. And I'm just curious, where do you think this went south with this rail? Where did this thought come into these people's minds to do this stuff? Because it's not a good idea, and I think it's going to destroy the game ultimately. That's just my opinion.
Well, I know for a fact that with the NIL, the genesis of the first lawsuit came out of California. Wow, big surprise there. And the court system allowed that lawsuit. I think it was a disgruntled parent, not a kid, but a parent who had been overpromised by a certain coaching staff from college way back when their kid was getting recruited. They sued, and the court system allowed it to keep building steam, and it got passed from finally they passed the bill saying, hey, it is okay for a high school athlete to sue a university. And on a side note, the transfer portal also started in California as a lawsuit from a high school parent against the NCAA in a specific school. So, to me, back in the day when you got recruited, obviously coaching staffs would sometimes promise stuff that they shouldn't have. I get that. But now when you have like SMU, probably the richest booster bankroll in the entire college football world. And it's all family oil money. And on another side note, the presidential council that Nick Saban was just asked to head, the co-chair of that is the largest booster from guess where? SMU. So I think that's a conflict of interest. How can you have a guy who's the largest booster and NIL proponent for Southern Methodist co-chair with Nick Saban? How NIL money is spent? It just seems like there's no quick fix to it.
There's none. Do you agree with my concept, though, that this is going to be a destroyer of the NCAA, or do you think that Saban and them are going to have enough pull to stop this train wreck, because all the kids are gonna do, Jimmy, when you get down to it, they're gonna keep begging for more money. It ain't gonna be $150,000, brother. Eventually, these kids are gonna be holding out for millions. I mean, Carson Beck got $4.5 million from Miami. I mean, I'm just like, are you joking me? I mean, I choked when I heard that.
There are eighth graders and ninth graders right now, even in where I still have my ear to the rail in Southwest Georgia. There are eighth and ninth graders get promised $1 million contracts, and literally signed contracts before they get to high school. It's, oh my gosh! And back to another point you made. You're giving a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, guaranteeing him $1.5 million a year for the next 4 years. His parents' lives changed. I get that whole thing. It's generational money, but it's going to destroy the NCAA. College football is so much different now, 5 years than it was 5 years ago, obviously. And you're right; it's going to keep escalating until the whole system blows up, and they're going to have to rebuild it from scratch. And I'm glad and honored that I participated in it, but it is tough to look at now, the finished product that we've got in 2025.
Jimmy, how's the game? How's this affected the play of these kids? I want to talk to you about the pressure, because I know, I was a baseball player in high school, but I never had any aspirations. I wasn't good enough to even get to college on my sports ability. But I know some kids were, and I know that there are some that were gifted. You were gifted, and I was actually very proud of you when I heard that you went to Georgia, and of course I was in Cairo then, but it was good to see you on the team there with Georgia, and I just wonder what kind of pressure that this is going to put on these kids. Because let me just say it like this: there's nothing free in this life, and if that college is giving that kind of money out to that kid becomes that college's property. And I think what bothers me too is that in the old days, the colleges were offering the kids 4-year scholarships to come play football, but the bigger picture to the college was the education. They wanted that kid to play football, but they always were concerned about the kid's education. It's what made Nick Saban so good. Bobby Bowden was like that. Bowden, he wanted you to play football, but he was a stickler about the academics. And there's coaches that turned the other cheek sometimes and said, gave a blank of the eye to the academic of the kid. But to me, that degree was far more important than that football, because this is the thing, buddy. Anybody could get injured. These kids could get injured. They could have something happen to them, a tragedy. And where does all that money go? I mean, do they still get that money? And what happens to them in life? Because I mean, again, I know some are gifted, and you have to tip your hat to those that make the big time and make the big bucks. But life is not guaranteed that. And again, you're putting a hell of a lot of pressure on an 18-year-old to perform for that kind of money, are you not?
You are, and that ties right in with the transfer portal. I think any kid that signs a 4-year scholarship, and by the way, most people don't realize that you don't really sign a 4-year scholarship. It's an individual yearly contract between the student athlete and the coaching staff at the university that gets renewed every single year.
Gotcha.
But they call it a 4-year scholarship. But a scholarship, I think the NCAA really started a downhill spiral when they allowed college basketball to become one and done. Right now, a kid out of high school, a 17-year-old, can leave his junior year, not even be mandated to graduate high school. He can leave his junior year, and as long as he's academically eligible. And there's a lot of ways to make a kid academically eligible. He can go to a university for less than a year and go right to the NBA. When the NCAA allowed that to happen, it just opened the doors for so many different things. And in my opinion, the people that are raking in right now are agents and attorneys. And you talk about pressure. If you give a kid X amount, millions of dollars, and he comes in his first year and he's a dud, he doesn't get the numbers that he needs. Right now, all he's got to do is jump in his car and go to the next state to another school. There's no back when I was playing, if you transferred, you had 100% right to choose where you wanted to play. But if you did, you had to sit out one whole year. You couldn't just leave on a Monday and suit up on a Tuesday at another school like you can now. And I think if they would put that back in place, along with some NIL restrictions, if you do transfer, that would alleviate a lot of those problems. I don't mind a kid getting paid whatsoever. I don't even mind the millions of dollars because, like you said, a kid could get injured. Get the money now while you can, and if you invest it right, you'll never have to work again. I get all that. But you're talking about less than 5% of all the athletes getting 80% of the money. It's the old 80-20 rule,
right,
if you will, in sales. And you're not going to have a team atmosphere anymore. These long snappers, kickers, well, maybe not kickers like Kevin Butler, my gosh.
I know.
But
yeah.
a lot of these positions aren't going to, the disparity in the locker room is going to be a huge problem that people don't think about enough.
Jimmy, I want to ask you about the coaches. I'm going to keep you another 10 minutes or so. I appreciate you coming on tonight. Where does this put the coaches? Have you, through the years that we've watched these coaching contracts too, it's not just about the kids, but these coaches, man, they are under so much pressure to win. And, you have a bad season and, the boosters want your head. And I look, it's even in the high schools. I've noticed this in the high schools that, we don't pay high schoolers to play football yet. But like you said, I didn't realize, and I don't doubt that 8th and 9th graders are getting promises of millions of dollars. But you gotta, it's not fair, man. Because again, there's a lot of things that the coaches can't control. Yes, they can. They're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-olds. But for goodness sake, why are they? I mean, that's a lot of money and a lot of expectation on the coaches, is it not? And I think this is just going to add more fuel to that fire. I mean, they're going to be under tremendous pressure. I saw what happened to Florida State last year with Mike Norvell, and I've got mixed feelings on Mike Norvell. I think he's a great guy. He's never going to be Bobby Bowden, but what happened to Florida State and that team being gutted like it was last year, it's going to happen again to other schools. And where's Mike Norvell going to be? In a year, where's all these people going to be, and these younger college coaches, and they're going to. It's the coaching staff too, correct? That's going to pay a price for this.
100%. But again, back to the high school coaches, I've got a lot of close friends that are high school head coaches now, and they're even signing nice long contracts, but nothing near what just a middle ground assistant would make at a Power 5 conference school. You've got an assistant strength coach at an SEC school that's making $150,000 a year. And that's insane money for a high school football coach. So there's this big, huge pressure to get to the college ranks. But even that right now, you've got a perfect example is Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. One of the first things he did was hire the general manager. He didn't want to have to deal with agents. He didn't want to deal with negotiating parents. And that whole, so he hired a general manager. Now all he does is recruit and coach. And more schools are hiring general managers just to talk to agents. So the coaching staff didn't have, I don't know prior to 2 or 3 years ago, how a head coach like Kirby Smart at Georgia, how could he balance this new NIL coming at him 100 miles an hour and talking to agents and guaranteeing parents this and then having to go out and, coach full time and still win. That is, you're paid a lot of money, but you don't get a lot of night's sleep where you get 8 straight hours. So you're right. The pressure is huge, but they're making it worthwhile if you call it that, depending on how you look at it. If you're like a good friend of mine is an offensive line coach for a Power 5 school, and he just signed a new contract for $490,000 a year, and he's a position coach, and that is a lot of money to pay somebody to coach football. He deserves it, but the high school coach, to me, is where there's more pressure, because if you lose your job after 2 or 3 losing seasons, you don't have that windfall backup contract to fall back on. Your contract's not guaranteed. You're gone. And I think the pressure for a high school coach now is 10 times more than a college coach. Well, I say that now. I wouldn't want to be Mike Norvell because you mentioned earlier starting the show that there are rumblings about Nick Saban. There's rumblings out of Tallahassee that they're going after Nick Saban to be the new coach, and I hate that because, like you, echo what you said. Mike Norvell is a class act, just an absolute class act, and he was on Kirby's staff at Georgia for a while.
Yes,
and I wish him well and all that. But hey, if you're a booster organization and you've got deep pockets like FSU has, why wouldn't you go after Saban if he's available?
well, you can't blame Florida State for that, but that's where all this has put these schools in the position to do, Jimmy. And there's a lot of good people that's going to get hurt in the crossfires of this. It really is. And anyway, well, listen, buddy, I want to tell you, I'm so grateful. I want you to come back on again sometime in the future. We'll talk about some other stuff, talk about the country maybe, and deal with some other things besides sports. But I want to tell you, I appreciate you as a friend. We go back a long way, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you as a guest tonight and give you insight to this. And you take care of yourself, man, and I'll be in touch with you, and we'll have you back on soon. Final thoughts, and I'll let you wrap us up, man.
Well, I want to end the show by saying this. One of the most important things that happened to me with friends, it's in a long time, if ever. You were one of the few people that came and visited me when my mom was in the hospital on her last days, and I'll never be able to tell you how much I appreciate that. You were able to sit with me and pray with me, and I know what your network's about. I know what your podcast's about, and I just want your listeners to know that's the kind of person you are, and I sincerely appreciate that.
Jimmy, I'll always remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember that, and I'll always be here. We're friends to the end, brother, and we appreciate you. Always Bearcats, man. Always Bearcats. But take care of yourself and have a good night.
All right, man. I look forward to talking to you again, Chris.
Absolutely, Jimmy. God bless, friend. See you now. JimmyHolton, everybody. Put some fire in that house for him. We're grateful to have him, and we're so grateful to have you with us tonight on this Tuesday night. And I'll come up there. There we go. And we're grateful that you're here. And we hope that you are having a wonderful Tuesday evening. We're not going to keep you long. James Akers will not be with us tonight. He's in the All-Star game down in Atlanta. We were hoping to get James on, but he said, I am sitting in Atlanta. He said, I expected you to be here. And I said, I can't afford All-Star tickets, James. And so anyway, we're grateful that you're here tonight, and but James will be with us later this week. We got Jonathan Tarrant coming on Thursday night. He is a dear friend of ours too. I know that this is not everybody's cup of tea, what we talked about tonight, and that's fine. But it is what's happening to sports. It's what's happening to these college kids, folks. And many of you have got high schoolers that maybe are in sports, and they are going to be facing these challenges going into college, and this money is going to be thrown at them if they're any good, and it's not a good thing. And as parents, I would strongly urge you to make sure that whatever college that your kid is going to, I'd be monitoring what kind of offers they're telling him and so forth, what they're going to give him, because these kids are, again, these contracts are just unbelievable what they are signing. A couple of I want to deal with a couple of things tonight. We've got some video that we want to share with you. There's a lot of talk still about the Epstein situation, and we promised you we were not going to deal with it, and we still are not going to deal with it much. But I do want to mention a few things, because we had some videos that came out tonight by President Trump. He had something to say about it. And I want to play this. This was on Epstein today about the files, and I think it's worth listening to. And I'm with President Trump. I'm with President Trump on this 1,000,000%. Roll the tape. Here's President Trump.
Semiconductors and chips.
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
Mr. President, a question on AI. How do you want Americans to think about it?
I want to play that again. That's President Trump today, and he's basically saying what people don't want to hear, and his base is turning on him because of this. But he's not telling Bondi not to release anything, but folks, it just ain't nothing to release. And I want you to listen to this one more time.
Semiconductors and chips.
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
Let them have it, exactly. And that's what he's saying. If there's anything to release, let them release it. We need to let it go. The man's dead. And that's coming from President Trump tonight, folks. That is President Trump. We got other situations that are much more pressing. This is Sean Hannity with John Solomon last night, and there is something brewing with the DOJ, and I think we're about to get justice. We are about to get justice on the Ponderosa regarding Jack Smith.
But what I'm reading in your piece tells me that starting with Russia and the Russia hoax, all the way through Jack Smith, we're talking about every incident of weaponization used against Donald Trump and how it could be part of a broader, grander conspiracy theory, a conspiracy that actually took place and law breaking involved in it. And that also the statute of limitations would not be applicable in this case as a result. And this would include names like Comey and Clapper and Brennan. Take it from there.
Yeah, and Barack Obama, too, because he was in on these early meetings. So what the FBI has done is treated the last decade of weaponization, all the great work that James Comer has turned up through his oversight committee, and put it into a timetable and said, this looks like an ongoing conspiracy, a wash, rinse, repeat cycle of Democrat gets in legal trouble. Hillary Clinton in her email case, Hunter Biden with his taxes, Joe Biden with his classified documents. They're let off the hook even when there is extraordinary evidence suggesting they shouldn't be left off the hook. And then a parallel track occurs where the Republican, in this case Donald Trump, is investigated falsely for things like Russia collusion, Ukrainian interference, his own documents at his home in Mar-a-Lago. This is a criminal conspiracy. By treating it as a conspiracy, you eliminate the 5-year statutes on individual crimes. If something happened in 2016, but it was part of an ongoing conspiracy that continued with Jack Smith raiding Donald Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago, it can be charged in the larger conspiracy, even though if you tried to charge it in an individual case, you wouldn't get it. Furthermore, you could also change the venue. Remember the troubles John Durham had bringing prosecutions to Washington, D.C.? Jurors wouldn't convict, even if they thought there was criminality going on. In this case, you could pick a place like Florida, where Jack Smith did the raid on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago house, and say that's where we're putting the grand jury. You get a more fair jury pool, a more fair grand jury pool. It gives Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, an enormous amount of flexibility to do something historic. Finally bring some accountability for all the things that Chairman Comer and Chairman Johnson, Chairman Grassley, Chairman Jordan have brought and proved to the American people.
Yeah, okay.
And that's something we're going to keep an eye on, because if that is the case, then they're going to open a lot of things regarding the Russia hoax and other things. This is President Trump on Ukraine today. Folks, this is also an interesting thing that's developing. He's given Russia 50 days to either make peace with Ukraine or the Trump train is going to run through Moscow. Roll the tape.
Yeah. Are you on Ukraine's side now? No, I'm on nobody's side. I'm on no. Why? You know what the side I'm on? Humanity's side. I want to stop the killing of thousands of people a week. I want to stop the killing. I want the killing to stop in the Ukraine-Russia war. That's the side I'm on.
That's the side he's on. He is on humanity's side. That's what side we all need to be on. This is something I want to salute our Tennessee folks for tonight.
Now, where new immigration laws take the crackdown a step further, the laws create sweeping criminal penalties for anyone who provides shelter to an undocumented immigrant. The American Immigration Council says they make it illegal for a church to offer temporary shelter, a landlord to rent out a room, or a family member to live with someone who is undocumented.
And that's what Tennessee has done tonight. It's not just illegals that we are going to remove from our state, but if you're harboring illegals, including churches, and I see signs all over the place, illegals welcome here, and you all are God's children and the sort, well, the ICE folks are going to come visiting, and I think that that is what needs to be done. All righty, we're not going to keep you long tonight. We're actually going to get you out of here at a decent time. This is Laura Trump. I want to play this because this is what I feel is more concerning to me tonight, folks. That the year, as I said, we celebrated a year anniversary of President Trump's attempted assassination of Sunday, the 14th. And this is Laura Trump with Benny Johnson last night talking about the family and how they see this. They have not gotten any more answers regarding Thomas Crooks, the young kid that had that gun in his hand and came within a hairbreadth of killing Trump, than we the public have. And it's sad to hear this. She asked some good questions. I will roll the tape. This is her and Benny Johnson tonight. We're going to get your questions. If you've got any questions, comments, be putting them in the house. Actually, that's not the video. That is the headshot of what she did. Let me see if we can get that downloaded here in a second. I'll just read you what that says. It basically says that she wants to know that none of us have been briefed. He doesn't want to think or know more about it. He boxes it away, speaking to President Trump, so he can focus on taking his country back. But her question is about what that kid right there has in his hand. That's not a gun. What he has in his hand is a cell phone. And the question that nobody has answered to this day, and I believe with everything in me that he was talking to somebody before he took that shot. And the question is, who was he talking to? Who was this kid talking to on that phone? Was he talking to the Iranians? Was he ordering a pizza from Pizza Hut? Was he talking to, his grandmother? Was he talking to his girlfriend? Was he talking to AOC? Was he talking to Joe Biden? Who was he talking to? Was he talking to the head of the Democrat National Committee? Who was he talking to? And one thing that Laura pointed out on this video was that that her family, folks, they've not gotten any more answers than we've got tonight. And I want to just, again, I've got this video lined up here. I want to, if you'll bear with me 1 second, because I want to play this video. Here it is right here. This is the video. If you'll give me 1 second, I can download this. This is about a 2-minute clip. And I'm going to, let me see here. This is Laura Trump. This is Laura Trump with Benny Johnson. Roll the tape, and she will explain her concerns. And I think if you're the family of President Trump, I would be concerned as well. What did I just do with that video? I just saved it, did I not? Let me hit refresh. Maybe this will bring it up. And it does. Here is Laura Trump.
We know absolutely nothing. We've never seen any of the... I mean, listen, every person has cell phone records. Every person has email records. We've seen nothing. Have you... Given the fact that you are a direct member of the family, has anyone briefed you on, like, who Matthew Thomas Crooks was, what his motivations were, who he was communicating with that day? Because we see photos taken by Secret Service of him on the phone. He's calling someone, Laura. Do we know who he called?
I do not have any of that information, and I think it's interesting,
Here's the photo, by the way.
Knowing my father-in-law for as long as I have, 17 years now or so, the way he operates, as far as I understand him, is that whenever there's a situation like this, that is very challenging to go through, that's obviously traumatic, I think he kind of boxes it up and puts it away, and he doesn't want to think about it. And you've kind of seen him, Benny, in a lot of these interviews where people are asking him specifically about, July 13th from last year. He says, I try not to think about it. He said in the interview with me that, you are putting your life at risk if you're a bull rider. 1/10 of 1% of bull riders are killed. 1% of 1% of race car drivers are killed. 5% of presidents are killed. And so he knows the risks, and he knows that this was a life-altering moment, a moment where things could have taken a turn for the worse. But I think he kind of boxes it up and puts it away, and that's how he's able to focus on taking this country back and making sure that we're going in the right direction and fixing all the wrongs that happened over the past 4 years, etc. He can't focus on this, and so he told me he was satisfied with the information that he received. But in a lot of ways, I almost think he doesn't even want to talk about it. Maybe he doesn't want to know more about it because it's a way that he personally processes things and deals with things. So no, none of us in the family have been briefed on it. I don't know. I don't have any more information on, obviously, the individual who tried to assassinate him. There is one person who is still alive who was attempting to kill him, and I think we're going to see that man in court in September, I believe, down in Florida. So maybe we can get some info from that guy. Unfortunately, Crooks, we're not going to get a whole lot out of him.
You're not going to get anything on Crooks. Crooks is dead. Crooks is dead. So you're not going to get anything on it. But while our country tonight and many in the mega movement is focused on Epstein, this is going on, and this needs to be addressed. And with the year anniversary, and you've got the calls for these. Look, I think it's all tied together. These attacks on these ICE agents, these attacks on our campuses, this anti-Semitism that's raging in our country. There was reports out that the Iranian government had websites set up funding any assassination attempt they could get at Trump. And again, no answers have been given. And both Trey Gowdy's not in Congress anymore, but he was on Fox last night talking about this very thing, that they need to make this transparent. And I think that that's what our frustration is tonight as people. Look, I think we're Americans. We can handle it. We can handle the truth. We can handle the situation. And we just want to know what happened. We just want to know we can handle this. We can handle the fact that, Epstein had a client list. Ghislaine Maxwell says he has a client list. Alec Dershowitz says he don't have a client list. Trump says he don't have a client list. I don't care whether it's a list or not. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was pedophiling victims because the victims have come forth. But what we don't know is who was involved in the actual pedophilia itself. We know that many people went to that island. This is more troubling to me than that. Because, again, you can't bring Jeffrey Epstein back and retry him and do anything more to him that's already been done. He's dead. This kid's dead. But I want to know who's on that phone. And I cannot believe that the Secret Service and the FBI does not know who was on that phone. But the kicker that frustrates me, too, is the fact that nobody in the Secret Service that was on detail that day, not one, has been fired. None of these Secret Service agents that were basically involved in this fiasco a year ago Sunday have been fired. None. So, go figure that one out because I can't. And I would hope that we would get some answers very, very soon. One more video. By the way, this is a developing story tonight. Boy, wouldn't this be peachy. Oh, you're talking about karma. Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is under mortgage fraud investigation tonight. And all these calls that he's made for the last 3 years accusing Trump of everything but sinking the Titanic, and I'm not so sure he probably don't believe Trump did that too. Adam Schiff is got some legal problems along with this Letitia James. I don't know what it is about these Democrats, but they just can't tell the truth on a mortgage application. Roll the tape.
Administration is corrupt. No one, not even a president, is above the law.
Well, we have a Fox News alert. The Angle has exclusively obtained the criminal referral for Democrat Senator Adam Schiff. It shows the underlying conduct described could result in claims of mortgage fraud. The referral submitted to the DOJ by Housing Director Bill Pulte alleges that Schiff has, in multiple instances, falsified bank documents and property records to acquire more favorable loan terms, impacting payments from 2003 to 2019 for a Potomac, Maryland-based property. Schiff owns a home in California and another in Maryland. Well, perhaps, when the Democrats decided to have Mr. High and Mighty Adam Schiff head an impeachment witch hunt against Trump, they should have done their due diligence, not just on their absurd allegations, but on their own chairman. With us to analyze is Jonathan Fahey, former federal prosecutor.
And they analyzed that. That's a developing story. That was last night, and it's really broke this afternoon. Trump even chimed in on it on the Breitbart and the Gateway Pundit, and we'll play that video for you Thursday night. We haven't got it downloaded yet, but wouldn't that be peachy? Wouldn't that be peachy if Adam gets a taste of his own medicine? All righty. Listen, I'm going to give you a chance to chime in tonight. We're going to not have an hour and a half show. We're going to get you out of here at a decent hour. If you got a question, if you got any comments about the show tonight, and put it in the house. Cedric Gibbons, come on, give me a break. You said you're just niffed that now paying kids is legal for schools not in the SEC. Cedric, I hate to tell you, look, I'm a dog fan, but I don't have a bone in this. Look, I think it's bad for any school to be paying kids. They shouldn't be paying them. They shouldn't be putting them in slavery either, because the colleges are making money off these kids. They're bringing these kids in, these athletes in. These colleges are making millions of dollars with the concessions, the ticket prices, the advertisement, the the bling bling, all the social media hype and all these things. And I mean, you've got ESPN commentators talking about these 18-year-olds like they're 30-year-old men. And, no wonder some of these kids wind up on drugs and alcohol and God knows what else when they leave college. It's just putting an undue amount of pressure on an 18-year-old to perform. And look, some of these kids, I mean, again, they're already their head is not. You're not thinking straight at 18. I was 18 once, contrary to rumor, and it wasn't last century. But I understand what being an 18-year-old is. I got a 22-year-old, 23-year-old kid. I love him. But I would not want him having that kind of money to be responsible for without any kind of supervision. I mean, I got a pretty smart kid. I mean, Caleb is a strong-willed, been raised right child. And, I mean, I would not be totally upset because I know he's handled, I can give him a little kudos tonight. He's been very well behaved, and he's very frugal and very wise with his money already. But not every kid would be that way. So my issue is not about the SEC. I could care less about the SEC at this point. I feel like the SEC was, the ACC got hosed 2 years ago when they did not put Florida State in that playoff with Michigan. I don't care if Michigan beat them 50-0. Florida State earned that right to play Michigan because they went undefeated. And I don't care what the state of the team was at the end of the year. They still won the ACC and got snubbed by Alabama. So my allegiances ain't about conferences. And to be frank with you, Cedric, I'm not you know, sports, I like sports, but it's not my God. And I can live it, leave it, or lump it. The sun comes up tomorrow. I don't care who wins or loses. But I am concerned. That's why I brought Jimmy Holton on tonight. I felt led to do it because we've not talked about this, because a lot of people don't even know this is happening. But if you got kids in your house that are playing sports, you better be aware of that. This is what's being dangled in front of them. And it's just going to get worse. And it feels like that you don't even have a differentiation now between the pros and the college rank. There's no difference, because that's exactly what the pros do. And he was speaking about Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is the most winningest NFL football coach in history. He goes to North Carolina, podunk holler, and I love you North Carolinians, but North Carolina ain't won a football championship ever. And they've not even won the ACC. I can't remember the last time they won an ACC championship in football. It's been over half a century. And they've went through 6 coaches in like 7 years. So why would the most winningest football coach in NFL history go to a podunk school like North Carolina? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, Tar Heels. But what I'm saying is it's not an Alabama, it's not a Florida, it's not an LSU, it's not an Ohio State, it's not a Notre Dame. It's North Carolina. Why would he do that? I'll tell you why he would do that. Because he knows that he's got the potential to buy enough players to come to North Carolina. He don't need to recruit. They don't need to recruit these kids anymore. They don't need to check their character. They don't need to know what the kind of people they are. But I'm going to tell you something. You put $100 into a kid's hands with good character, you're going to get more out of him than putting $150,000 in a kid whose character is black as the night is day. You're going to have problems. And they're already going to have problems. That's my point. It's not about the SEC. It's not about any conference. And I'll just leave it at that. It is a mess. Any questions? Any questions tonight? Your turn to talk. Your turn to talk. Any questions tonight? We're so grateful to have everybody on this Tuesday night. Good to see everybody. Any questions over in Facebook tonight? Again, I know this was not everybody's cup of tea, and that's all right. We're going to have some shows that won't be everybody's cup of tea. Brenda Salter Vinson's in the house tonight. Brenda Salter, good to see you, friend. She's another classmate. And we have wowed everybody, and we don't even have any questions. Cedric, it is a mess. It is a mess, my friend. That's the key. It is a mess. It is a mess. And I'm with you. I know you're not. I know what your comment was, and I don't take offense to it. It's fine. But I'm telling you, this is going to be the destruction. It's not just going to be the destruction of sports. This is about the kids. It's about the kids. And this has been coming on for a long time because the argument has always been made, what I made a while ago. And there was a part of me at one time that I believe the NCAA should have given these kids some kind of compensation because the strict rules were so bad that if I had, let's just say I was a booster to a school and there was a young man that was playing football and Jimmy sort of alluded to it, look, they only got $40 and most of that was tickets. They were given tickets and they didn't have any money. And I'd always felt like the NCAA should have made, or at these schools, get a fund, a discretionary fund is what we call it, put money in it, and have an overseer. I mean, the kid, you've got plenty of money to do this. Have an administrator over that fund where that kid, if he needed a suit or he needed to go eat and didn't have enough money to do those things, he could go to this administrator and say, I'm in need, and they could, from that fund, give that kid funds to help him get through his college. But see, this is how messed up our country is. College has never been about going to play football. College is supposed to be a place where you go to learn. And we've got this turned around because now what we're doing, we're sending our kids there to play football and hope they learn something in the 4 years they're on that football field. And that's never how it was intended to be. And that's why colleges brought these kids on as what we call student athletes. They brought these kids on with the idea that we're going to give you a 4-year scholarship to learn and get a degree that you can go out in that world and make something of yourself and do something good for this world. And the football was just cherry on top. Football was secondary. That ain't how it is tonight. And that's going to be the destruction of not just the sports. It's going to be the destruction of these colleges. And that's my 2 cents. I'm just saying it like that. But it's going to affect, it's more than just sports. This was more about sport than sports tonight. I know people thought it was, and it just bored them to death. But it's more, folks. It's what's happening to our society. It's what's happening to our colleges. It's what's happening to our young people. It's what's happening to our young people. I'll amen myself. Janet, was it said where the money comes from to pay these college players, these boosters and corporate sponsorships? A lot of these schools have got contracts with Nike and these big corporations, and these boosters have big pockets. And Jimmy's point was well taken. The smaller schools don't have that kind of money. The boosters of these smaller schools, they don't have those funds. But you get an LSU or Alabama or Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, the big teams. Texas is another one. Texas A&M. And even Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher got into a little blow up here 2 years ago because Nick Saban is good as, or Jimbo just as good as accused Nick Saban of buying players, and Nick Saban accused him of buying players. And this ugliness is just, it's just going to get ugly. But there's corporate sponsors out there. And look, and I don't doubt that Jimmy was right, that 8th and 9th graders are being told right now, if you'll stay on this track and come to our school in 4 years when you graduate. And folks, I see what I see happening is kids are going to start dropping out of high school and thinking, hey, I'll just go from the 9th grade, go on to college and just take my chances and walk on that field and hope I get some money. I don't need to go to high school. That's what's going to be the downfall. That's another thing that's going to happen. Nobody has seen this. It's all about the money, because that tax dollar, not tax dollars, but that TV money is in the billions, that these TV stations pay to be able to broadcast these games and in turn sell advertising to these advertisers. Because on any given Saturday, folks, and really on any given Sunday, you're talking multiple tens of 20, 100 million people watch these football games. Look, we got a stadium here in Tennessee, and I think our stadium holds 50, 60,000 people. I can tell you every Saturday in Knoxville, when we got a home game in Tennessee, you don't want to be downtown because that stadium is filled. It's very rare that we don't have a sellout here in Tennessee in Knoxville. And so you multiply that by hundreds, tens of hundreds of thousands of schools, maybe 1,000 schools out there. Multiply that every Saturday. You're talking 10 to 12 weeks out of the year, and that starts adding up into some massive money. So they're getting it from somewhere. It's a good question, Janet. It's a good question. It's an excellent question. It's a question that nobody's asking. Players switching colleges each year because of money. Chris, that's another point, and I'm glad you're bringing that up, and I'm glad you folks are entering into this conversation with me tonight. That is the ugly part of it, too, and this is what I felt for Florida State last year. Florida State, half their team walked off the field, walked off the team. When all that happened in the year before, they just went to other schools and left Mike Norvell with a sketch team, and he didn't even win 3 games last year after going undefeated the year before. And there's no loyalty. It used to be when you signed a scholarship to a school, that school had you under their control for 4 years. And now what these kids are doing, they're backing out of their scholarships, and they're saying, I'm not going to fulfill my obligation to you to play football. I'll just go somewhere else. And then other schools have got their hand out, and they're saying, come on over here and play for us. They don't care that you're under obligation to that school. There's no character, and there's no kind of loyalty and no kind of character in any of this. So it is what it is. And but I'm glad you all are entering into this and thinking about these things, because this affects not just the sports world, folks. It's going to affect our country. It's going to affect our country eventually. And I want to thank my dear buddy, Jimmy. He did a good job tonight. I'm going to tell him he did a good job because he was involved in the college game for a few years. And he's a good man. He's a good man and a good friend. Elaine says North Carolina is known for basketball, not football. Elaine, you're absolutely right. But I'll make a prediction, Elaine. Give it a year. Wait till this time next year. You got Bill Belichick as the head coach of the Tar Heels. And I'm telling you, he will bring some good, he will buy some players. And I'm not saying that to disrespect Bill Belichick. It's the system. It's the system. It's the way college football has become. I mean, Bill Belichick could have had any job he wanted to in the NFL. He could have had any school he wanted to. To him to go to North Carolina just blew me away because you're right. North Carolina is famous for basketball programs. Roy Williams and Dean Smith and Michael Jordan was a Tar Heel, and some of the biggest basketball players ever in the history of the game were Tar Heels. So, anyway, I'm with you. I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. Jones says our young people are losing character and they are the future. John, I'll agree with that statement up to the very end. They're not just our future, my friend. They're our present. Some of these kids are old enough to vote. We saw Magdalene over our break last week, and God bless her heart. We talked. She's going to be coming on the show soon. That generation, they're voting. They're voting. They're a voting bloc in our country. And look, it's what scares me about Mandani up in New York. He is connecting with the youth. So is AOC. AOC is connecting with the young people. She ain't got a brain in her body, as evil, as wicked as sin, but she's connecting with the young people. So is he. An Islamic Marxist is connecting with these kids that they're not our future. They're our present. They will rule us again in the future, certainly, but they're our present too, because they're about to take over government if we don't be careful. If we're not careful. That's why this is important tonight, because you're right about the character issue. But schools are basically turning them into slaves. And I hate to use that analogy tonight about this, but they become nothing but pimps. The colleges have become nothing but pimps. And it's troubling. And it's seeping into the high school. It shocked me when I heard JimmyHolton say that, and I'm from Southwest Georgia, and I know exactly some of the schools he's talking about. It does not surprise me that these kids are being tempted in the 8th and 9th grade. Think about that, guys. Those kids in the 8th and 9th grade are not even teenagers yet. Some of them are 12, 13, 14. I think how old was I? I was 13 or 14 when I was in the 8th or 9th grade. Yeah, that's right. I mean, you'd be 13, 14. You've just turned a teenager. What would you do as a teenager? Somebody walked up to you and said, hey, you stay here in this school and you make me a promise that if you come to our college, we're going to be waiting for you at the end of high school. And it don't even matter if you graduate, but if you'll come play football for us, we're going to offer you $150,000. It's crazy, folks. The President of the United States don't even make that kind of money. You realize the annual salary of the President is about $275,000 a year, unless they've increased it. They may have increased it since inflation. That's the crazy thing about these sports salaries. These people are making more money, folks, than the most important man in the world's making. I mean, it's sinful criminal money, what they are making. So, go figure. Go figure. Anyway, good stuff. Elaine, go Tar Heels, right? Go Tar Heels. Cedric, who is going to be the quarterback in Tennessee? I have no clue. I have no clue. It won't be Nico, because Nico got greedy. And Nico's been sent packing. And I'm proud of Josh Hopple. I am. I'm proud of Josh Hoople for making the stand that he did with this kid. Because this kid, as Jimmy said, was right on target. He came basically demanding Tennessee pay him an ungodly amount of money that Tennessee didn't have. And whether Tennessee had it or not was irrelevant. And Josh said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play that game. You want to play football for me, you play football for me on my terms, not yours. And that's the other thing this is going to do. These kids are going to start telling these coaches what to do, just like the pros tell the coaches what to do. Because to be a pro coach, you're not a pro coach. You're just a cheerleader, basically. Because these players control the team when it should be the other way around. So I don't know, buddy. It won't be Chris McDonald. I can tell you that. I can tell you that, buddy. All righty. We are done for tonight. Any other questions? Any other statements, comments, whatever? We've been grateful to see you tonight. And I know, again, this was a different kind of program, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, put some fire in that house for Jimmy. Elaine says, I'm a Pirates fan. My daughter went to East Carolina. Yes, I know where East Carolina's at, Elaine. I saw pictures over there in Eastern Carolina. I know where exactly that college is, and it's a good school. That's a good school. And Elaine, I'll just say this about East Carolina. East Carolina is a great example. East Carolina will not come. This portal will hurt schools like East Carolina because East Carolina is not going to have the pocketbook to compete with this free agency and get these big players. There's no way that Carson Beck, the former quarterback at Georgia, who signed, again, his total deal in Miami is approaching $4.5 million, is what I'm understanding. It's unreal. And there is no way that East Carolina could have ever dreamed of getting Carson Beck to come play quarterback for them just out of the goodness of his heart. They would have had to offer him that kind of money. There's no way they can afford that, not for one kid. There may not even be $4.5 million go through the athletic department of East Carolina, period. And these are the schools that this is going to affect. But again, the ripple effect and the domino effect is going to be the children and the kids themselves. And it's not a good look for the NCAA. And I saw this coming. It was a Pandora's box. And there was a better way to handle this than what they're doing. And I pray that some of these statesmen in the game, like Nick Saban, I hope that other voices, Tommy Tuberville's a former coach. He's a senator now from Alabama. He's going to be the next governor of Alabama, likely. I pray that some of these older coaches that have got some wisdom, Belichick included, even though I don't count on Belichick doing much of anything but getting a paycheck from North Carolina, but I pray that some of these older college coaches will use some wisdom and come to their senses and try to regulate this. And I think Jimmy hit a home run with that tonight. It's got to be regulated. If it's not going to be regulated, it will destroy sports as we know it. And there will be no purity in the game anymore. There's not purity in the game anyway now. But that's just my 2 cents. Go Eastern Carolina. Cool deal. Good to see you, Elaine. Good to see you. Any other statements? Any other statements? Good to see everybody tonight. We're grateful for you. Thank you, Jimmy Holton, for being with us on a Tuesday night. We'll be back here tomorrow night with our face show. Thursday night, Jonathan Terrett and James Akers will be with us. And Friday night, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to do something. Listen, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. I'll see you on the radio network tomorrow, 2 to 3. And then I will see you back here tomorrow. Yeah, in the morning and then tomorrow night, okay? May the Lord bless you. And have a good night, everybody. Put some fire in that house. Hope you enjoy Jimmy Holton. So good to see my buddy. And it was the day that he's talking about his mother was dying. And I saw it on Facebook, and he was in the hospital. And the Lord dealt my heart. He did. He dealt my heart. He said, you need to go by and see him. And when I walked in, he had the most shocked look on his face. And he said, Chris McDonald. I said, yep. I said, the one and only, man. And he started almost weeping. And he said, you're the only one of my classmates. He said, I've got hundreds of friends in football and classmates and big name people. And he said, none of them have come by to visit me during this time. His mother was at the brink of death. And we sat there in that lobby that day, and this has just been within the last probably 6-7 years, I guess, 7. And we had a word of prayer that day. We pray for his mother. And I'm glad he remembered that. I'd almost forgotten that, but I'm glad he remembered that. And may the Lord bless him and Jimmy and his family tonight. We love you guys. Have a good one, everybody. Be safe out there, and we will talk to you tomorrow. We'll be back doing this again. If you enjoyed the Mcfiles tonight, say amen, somebody. See you back here tomorrow. Good night.